dahil ako isang mahirap lang.
Ito ang pinakatakaw at pinakakamot ng bulak sa bilog ng lupa.
Ano kanya po yung resulta?
Ano? Kaya tanggap ka.
Ang tao to ay intindi kung ano ang tawag ng waiver.
Hindi ako takot mahusgahan ng itong tao.
Wala sa baho sa Panginoon sa mga
Sa kadako sa kalibutan, makatultog yapon sila silang salag.
I will show you something if you send the money.
Nak, narinig mo ako? Wait lang, ma. Para kaming basura dito, may tinapon lang.
Sapagkat ang araw na to ay inilaan na para sa'yo at habang buhay ay laging sumasa'yo.
Wala, bota na si Mrs. ngayon eh. Bukas ka na lang.
Handa ka na ba sa ating showdown?
Girl, I was born ready.
Di man to bata nga lagawan.
Happy magkahap ka. Happy ka.
Wala kalibutan.
Ano kaya nangyari sa mga tao, no? Saan kaya sila nagpunta?
Galit na galit at malaking dragon na may diwata na pinanggo.
Bon, ayaw nagtubuhat na balik, okay?
Mabdos ko.
Sa? Pag sure, oy! Asa ko nun, nabe?
Magpapatuloy ako. Pwede mo ba akong samahan?
Binenta naman kasi. Hindi na. Aabot din tayong lahat kahit iba-iba tayo ng uri.
Kuya, Taron,
Sabi nga ayoko!
kinakausap mo na naman ba yung mga laruan mo?
You should really catch up.
It's always been our goal to understand not just the needs of the industry in terms of development, in terms of programs, but to really address the structural changes that needs to be instituted. We need government's intervention. We need to work together. Private sector and government, we have to work together so that we can elevate our industry. And these policies are needed for us to thrive. And that's the reason why Fdcp has been working with Korea, has been working with Singapore, has been working with Malaysia. We're understanding their best practices and understanding how we can adapt it to our local industry.
Our lab is an Asian lab, and the way it's a little bit different from, say other labs outside is that we are not just labs that concentrate on films that has to go to these big A-list festivals. We also want projects that can actually work within the Asian region, and so they're not like always the art house kind of films, but they're also kind kind of like, whether it be comedy or horror, that can work in a wider context of Asia is something that we are also very active about.
And not thinking that you're making a film for the international market. Make the film for what you believe in. Actually, those surprises are films that were not made to win Oscars. Do your films and then it will go where it should go.
Of sharing, I think, can help you grow, get more confidence, and besides make connections. For me, this kind of collaborative process is very interesting, and I think that's something, as you said, the two of you earlier, which has a kind of a very interesting impact, indeed also, because I think indirectly it does help the local regional film industry to be stronger also.
As a society, we realize with this pandemic that we cannot live in isolation. And the film industries and the TV industries cannot also be in isolation. We really need to sort of like find alliances with all the different industries that are affected and how we all come together to sort of like push our agendas forward. And the key agenda is how to have life resume again the way we had pre-pandemic.
For more details on IFIC, please check our official social media accounts. Facebook page, www.facebook.com/IFICPHofficial. Twitter, @IFICPHofficial. And Instagram, IFICPHofficial. To register for IFIC public sessions and masterclasses, visit our website at fdcp.ph/IFIC. Check out the full lineup of public sessions and masterclasses for this year's Film Industry Conference. Visit our website at fdcp.ph/IFIC. International Film Industry Conference Online 2021 is presented by Film Development Council of the Philippines in partnership with Full Circle Lab Philippines, ASEAN-ROK Film Partnership, supported by International Film Commission Partners, Film Philippines Office, Korean Film Council, National Film Development Corporation Malaysia, Singapore Film Commission, and the National Federation of Motion Pictures and Contents Associations, Thailand. International partners, Cannes Next of Marché du Film Festival de Cannes, Hubert Balls of International Film Festival Rotterdam, Netflix, Purin Pictures, CFIC Lab, Southeast Asia Pacific Audiovisual Archives Association, Torino Film Lab. Local partners, ABS-CBN Film Restoration Sagip Pelikula, KTX, Philippine Film Archive, TBA Play and TBA Studios, Upstream PH, Viva Communications Inc., Livestream partner, Digital IC3 Productions. Thank you for joining us today. Sit back and relax as we are about to begin. The International Film Industry Conference, or IFIC, first conducted by the Film Development Council of the Philippines, or FDCP, in 2017, aims to bring together international and local experts to share and discuss the latest trends, opportunities, platforms, and cooperation globally that producers and filmmakers can explore for the development, production, and distribution of their projects, with the intent of crossing beyond local borders. The IFIC strives to continue the synergy of the members of the industry by featuring experts and professionals this September 2021. This event will give a platform to further explore opportunities, challenges, and new norms in the film industry as we push and thrive to move forward in a global pandemic. The pandemic has immensely shaken the film industries of a lot of countries, from creation to consumption. Despite the challenges, industry support from the ASEAN and Asian Film Commissions continues. As part of the ASEAN-ROK workshop series, this panel will highlight the state of the ASEAN and ROK film industries and the plans of film commissions to support and guide their industries in recovering and thriving post-pandemic. Our moderator for this panel is a film producer and festival curator, dividing her time between Asia and Europe. She has worked for Focus Films, Hong Kong, Variety, USA, Irresistible Films, Hong Kong and Japan, and also film festivals like Berlinale and Cinemasia Film Festival. She is the co-founder and head of festival management for the International Film Festival and Awards Macao until 2020. Selected filmography includes The Beautiful Washing Machine, Rain Dogs, Crazy Stone, My Mother is a Belly Dancer, The Shoe Fairy, At the End of Daybreak, Lover's Discourse, Come Rain, Come Shine, Postcards from the Zoo, and Mrs. K. She produces with her production company Paper Heart and with Amsterdam-based company An Original Picture. In addition, she mentors and lectures with film training programs or labs, primarily with emerging filmmakers, plus supports various international film institutions and film funds in multiple capacities. She is currently the year-round programming consultant for Cinematheque Passion in Macau. To help us understand more about this session, let us join Lorna T.
Good evening, good afternoon. Hello, everybody. My name is Lorna T. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Very happy to be back for the International Film Industry Conference organized by the FDCP in the Philippines. Happy to see some old friends and also some new friends here today. Looking at the ASEAN-ROK initiative that was launched a couple of years back, and looking at how ASEAN and also South Korea can come closer together to build our industries, our audiovisual industries. It's something that, all of us in this room is very passionate about, and we hope that we can learn from each other the best practices, looking at some of the things that may not have worked, looking at what is possibly working for the industry, and also what are some of the ideas that are coming together. The pandemic has really affected us in really sort of like making production challenging, exhibition challenging, distribution challenging, but it also has brought on a lot of new areas where we can look into presenting filmmakers' work in different ways as before. So let's look at our panelists for today. We have the ASEAN-ROK. It's called Shaping the New Landscape of the ASEAN Film Industry. And today we have our speakers. First off, I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Joachim from the IMDA in Singapore.
Hi. Good evening from Singapore. My name is Joachim. I've been with the Singapore Film Commission, which is under the Infocomm Media Development Authority and reports to the Ministry of Communication and Information. First of all, thank you very much for Chair Liza, FDCP, for inviting me to be on the panel and to contribute to IFIC again. I'm very happy to be here and be part of the conversation. I think the work that you are doing in terms of hosting such a gathering of speakers across Asia is very important. There are many challenges that are facing our industry, and the more we share, the more we discuss, solutions will come out of this. So thank you very much. I'm very happy to be part of this conversation.
Corporation Malaysia. Encik Ahmad Idham.
Here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Can. Okay. So I just make sure that I can test the mic first, because due to what happened to Lorna just now, I thought I'm talking alone. Okay, hi everybody. Good evening. It's nice to see old friends here, Liza, Joachim, and Lorna, everybody. So my name is Idham, Ahmad Idham. I'm the CEO of National Film Development Corporation of Malaysia. We call it FINAS. Thank you very much again, Fdcp, for inviting me to be part of the team today. Thank you very much. I would love to share, and then also I would love to hear from our counterpart here, whatever that we can share in terms of improving our creative industry and the film industry moving forward post-pandemic. Thank you very much. So Lorna, pass back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Encik Ahmad Idham. Next up, I'd like to invite Ms. Umasiri Taron, who is from Thailand. She is the Deputy Secretary General, the National Federation of Motion Pictures and Contents Association, Thailand. Over to you, Ms. Umasiri.
Thank you. Swadika. Good evening, everyone. You can call me Uma. I'm from MPC. Thanks for the introduction. We are comprised with 11 professional field, like the producer, the cinema operator, the distributor, the director, the actors, the production teams, the voice doubling expert, production units, the entertainment reporters, film scholars, and producer and distributor of home entertainment materials. Our main is like to push forward the Thai film and the video industry to achieve the international success. And thank you for inviting me this evening. And we hope we learn from each other and support each other during this difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Uma. Next up, I'd like to have us play the video because he couldn't join us today, the chairman of COFIC, Mr. Kim Yong-jin. So let's have a word of greeting from Mr. Kim Yong-jin.
안녕하십니까. 영화진흥위원회 김영진 위원장입니다. 먼저 코로나 팬데믹 상황에서도 영화계가 처한 어려운 상황을 극복하기 위해 노력하고 계시는 각국의 영화인 및 관계자분들께 응원과 격려의 인사를 전합니다. 그리고 이번 제2차 한 아세안 영화 워크숍을 준비해 주신 필리핀 영화개발위원회 측과 패널로 참석해 주신 기관장님들께도 감사의 마음을 전합니다. 한국과 아세안은 한 아세안 영화기구 설립과 협력사업 활성화를 목표로 꾸준히 교류 활동을 이어가고 있습니다. 한 아세안 영화 관계기관과 각국 영화계 종사자들이 모여 영화산업의 새로운 협력 모델을 논의했던 지난 7월 28일 1차 워크숍에 이어 제2차 한 아세안 영화 워크숍이 각국의 뜨거운 관심 속에서 개최된 것을 매우 기쁘게 생각합니다. 일정상 직접 함께하지는 못하지만 영화진흥위원회 김정석 사무국장이 위원회의 대표 패널로 참석해서 전 세계 영화 산업의 전망과 영화 분야의 미래 협력 방향에 대한 한국의 시각을 전달할 예정입니다. 본 행사를 계기로 아시아 영화 산업의 미래를 위한 한국과 아세안 국가 간의 교류가 더욱 활발하게 이어지기를 기대하며 두 개의 스페셜 세션으로 개최되는 이번 두 번째 워크숍 시리즈에 참석자분들의 많은 성원과 지지를 부탁드립니다. 감사합니다.
Kamsahamnida. And next up, I'd like to introduce from the Deputy Secretary of COFIC, Korean Film Council, Mr. Kim Jong-suk. And with him today, we have Mr. Kim Kim Kyung-min, who will be translators for us today. Thank you. Mr. Kim Jong-suk.
네, 반갑습니다. 네, 저는 영화진흥위원회 사무국장을 맡고 있는 김정석이라고 합니다. 오늘 그 포럼에 초대해 주셔서 너무 감사드리고, 이 포럼 안에서 지금 각국의 모든 영화인들이 팬데믹으로 인한 어려움과 또 영화 산업에 대한 미래에 대한 불투명성에 대해서 고민하고 있는 것으로 알고 있습니다. 이 부분에 대해서 열심히 얘기 나누고 이 이야기를 가지고 다시 한번 각국의 영화 산업이 발전하고 서로 교류할 수 있는 방법들을 찾아내는 자리로 참석하도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
Very nice to meet you all. I am Kim Jong-suk, the Deputy Secretary of COVIC. And first of all, I really want to thank you guys for inviting me over here in this conference. Right now, due to the COVID-19 pandemic situation, filmmakers all over the world are having a hard time and struggling because of this unexpected global pandemic. However, through this conference, I really would want to have a fruitful discussion and discuss about how we can have a cooperative and development discussions in order for us to kind of overcome this global pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kamsahamnida. And I guess we can now go to our host for today, the chair lady, and also the CEO of FDCP, the Film Development Council of the Philippines, Miss Liza Dino. Liza.
Thank you, Lorna. Good evening, everyone. Yes, my name is Chair Liza. They call me Chair Liza. I am the Chairperson and CEO of the Film Development Council of the Philippines, and I welcome you all. It's nice to see familiar faces. Joachim, Ahmad, nice to meet Ms. Umasiri. This is an amazing opportunity for us to get together again. It's like a yearly reunion for the Southeast Asian Film Commissions to get together and for this 2 hours to just find opportunities to continuously collaborate and find ways to bring together our Southeast Asian filmmakers and elevate the Southeast Asian cinema, especially this year in different festivals. We've been really creating a lot of waves in terms of the films that we create. So cinema is still thriving, and I'm happy that we're here together again.
Thank you, Liza. I really applaud FDCP for doing the film industry conference, because I think it's really a necessary event for all of us within the region. It's something that we look forward to, and thank you for bringing it all together. So I actually like to start today by maybe having our big brother, Mr. Joachim Jung, talk a little bit from Singapore's perspective, because Singapore has been leading in terms of bringing the region together, and you were the first to launch an fund for Southeast Asian filmmakers to collaborate with each other. So maybe would you like to, maybe we could play the video first, and then you could go in a little bit into introducing some of the status of things in Singapore for you now. So maybe the video from Singapore Film Commission.
Yeah, that'll be great. Thank you. Yeah, we'll have the video, and then I'll talk a little bit about that initiative.
Yeah, because a lot of it started in Singapore, and we really think you should start the ball rolling first here.
Okay. There we go.
I think before the Singapore Film Commission introduced a grant like this, there wasn't anything of this sort in the region. Now we get to tap into the larger Southeast Asian market and not only contribute financially, but also creatively work on filmmakers' visionary works.
We're putting our local talent to work side by side with regional talents. It's an increase of their understanding of filmmaking. It's also an increase of the opportunities that this grant is creating.
The grant enables Singaporean producers to find the best resources in our country and enhance somebody else's project and production value, whereas at the same time develop our own industrial portfolio, our own industrial expertise.
This is such a huge opportunity for collaboration within our community. I never feel like our region, our Southeast Asia, become so tied up together and feel so strong these days. I could feel like in the next few years we could hope for a decent amount of interesting movie coming out from this region. So what is also important is to how to get the film out to the audiences and to the world and to introduce those voices from our region.
The grant really gives us more opportunity and possibility to work together, and I think in 1 or 2 years, I guess you will see the impact it's actually on the international level. Because of the co-production grant, I believe we will see a lot more good films coming out.
The collaboration to reach a certain quality to bring the voices from Southeast Asian. I think that's the most important thing.
When we have this possibility to actually collaborate with talents and technicians and staff from other countries, it opens up a lot more possibilities and to get to learn about different styles of working from people from different countries.
I think there is a well-established pool of producers here that are able to take projects seriously and help them to bring it to the next level.
We're not afraid of telling stories that are honest, that are true, So I think what this grant has brought to the table is that it's going to allow many more films and stories from the region to be shared across the world.
Okay.
I'm always sort of like very impressed. I'm going to start a little bit of a comment there that, the Singapore Film Commission was one of the first, I think, institutions that have really recognized and given platform for producers to speak, which is very rare because most of the time the filmmakers take center stage. But without the producers, where would the filmmakers be, right? So I hand it back over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lorna. Indeed, right? Film directors, writers tend to take a lot of the limelight, but actually directors are very important, and the SFC has recognized that actually the role of producers and having producers that understand how to produce at international level, right, and collaborate on co-productions, actually these are a very rare breed, and we need to nurture these talents. As you can see in the video, we're very proud of the Southeast Asian Co-Production Grant, and this we're in our third year already, and we launched it in 2019, 2020, and then 2021, right? And today we have already selected and awarded 20 projects. So there are many projects that have been awarded and in the works from 7 out of the 10 ASEAN countries. So happy that this thing is progressing. Maybe let me tell you a little bit of a genesis of why this thing exists, right? Because in 2017, Singapore Film Commission was in a way riding high because the year before in 2016 we had 2 films in Cannes, right, in competition in Cannes, and what I noticed was many of these films, right, from Singapore and from Southeast Asia in particular, many of them were co-productions with many of the European countries as well. And I started to research into what was the mechanism, in bringing some of these films to the screen, and the importance of funds like the CNC Cinema Remote, right, the Hubert Bowles funds, and these were all very important sources of financing for our filmmakers. All right, so every year, many of our filmmakers really go up and in a competitive way try to get some of these financing. But at that time, 2017, there was nothing available in Southeast Asia. And so that got me thinking and talking to people and saying, perhaps it's time for us to start something so that we have a resource within Southeast Asia for Southeast Asian stories and filmmakers. And so I proposed this to my boss, right, 2017, and the answer was promptly no. Don't do this. Why are you doing this? As though you have not enough work to do, right? So don't do this. I didn't give up, right? So in 2018, that got approved. Miraculously, and 2019 we launched the first year, right? First year we awarded 8 projects. Some of these projects are starting to bear fruit. So you may have heard that Vengeance is Mine by Edwin from Indonesia won Locarno, right? And proudly the SFC was part of the financing for that film as well, and some of our Singapore producers were part of that collaboration. There will be a few others coming up, right? From that first inaugural batch. And since then, as I said, we've been awarding every year since. The process is very competitive, but it's also given us given me, right, a perspective that there is a lot of talent and a lot of beautiful stories in the region. And all it really needs, right, is governments to recognize that we need to give that support, right? When I started this, and I've shared this with COFIC and with FDCP and many other film commissions in the region, I said that Singapore will start. But we hope that this will not be the end of it, right? We hope that every country will find a way to also look beyond their country, right? Support filmmakers in the region, in Asia, right? Not just Southeast Asia, but eventually in Asia with the Koreans as well. And if every country does this, right, then what happens is then we have tremendous resources that we pool together, and many of these wonderful stories from the region will be actually realized, right? And will be certainly a region that becomes very interesting on global world cinema.
Thank you, Joachim. I think the numbers itself pre-pandemic, the Asia Pacific region is the fastest growing region in terms of audience numbers growing, box office numbers, and also if you talk to any of the major platforms internationally and regionally, Southeast Asia and the Asia Pacific region is the most dynamic and most important to them, and therefore the additional collaborations that would be happening from grants coming out from either IMDA or FDCP, and also the incentives set up from COFIC and within in Thailand, is also something that I think is really necessary to bring us forward, because the region is big and growing, and we can only be better if we work together, closer together. There's always a need for us to have this dialogue, because we need to maybe look at how our audience will reduce dependency on films coming from perhaps America, and to grow appreciation for films coming from within our region. And with that, I'd like to maybe ask Mr. Kim, because of Korea being sort of like the powerhouse of Asian cinema, it is really the most sort of like vibrant and dynamic film industry in the region now. Perhaps you'd like to tell us a little bit about how COFIC is dealing with that amazing dynamism after the win of Parasite, and also the constant status of Korea being at the forefront of the film industry now in Asia.
네, 어떻게 보면은 한국 영화 그 산업 자체가 지금 가장 1등으로 발전이 되어 있는 영화 산업인데, 이렇게 다양하고 다중화적이고 기생충 같은 영화가 어떻게 보면은 스포트라이트이 됐는데, 영화진흥위원회가 그 기생충이나 이런 다른 영화들을 발전시키는 데에서 어떻게 추진해 나가고 있는지에 대해서 설명 부탁드리겠습니다.
간략하게 얘기를 드리면, 사실은 그 기생충이나 이런 그 아카데미의 성과는 그냥 단순한 짧은 시간에 그것을 목적으로 만들어진 것은 아니고요. 그 2000년대 초반서부터 굉장히 오랜 시간 동안 같이 해오면서 영화 산업 발전에 있어서 여러 가지의 정책들을 도모해서 나온 결과라고 생각합니다.
I believe that the results, good results, that different kinds of movies, especially what we know is the Parasite, was not a short-term prepared project. It actually was prepared since 2019, and different kinds of policies were adjusted in order for them to see this very fortunate result.
다만 아쉽게도 이러한 노력의 결과가 성취되었음에도 불구하고 이제 팬데믹으로 인해서 지금 현재 한국 영화 산업의 상황도 그렇게 좋지 않은 상황이고, 예년에 비해서 관객 수도 약 한 80여 %가 감소를 했고, 다른 아세안의 국가들과 마찬가지로 플랫폼들이 약진을 하면서 실제적인 영화와 드라마나 기타의 모든 영상들과의 경계가 허물어지면서 여러 가지 고민들이 시작되는 전환점이라고 지금을 표현하고 싶습니다.
But despite this very fortunate result that they were able to see from the happenings, because of this very big problem, which is the pandemic, which was really unexpected, also resulted to the shrinking of Korean film industry, and until to this point where we're talking right now. In fact, if we talk about the figures, the number of audience or the box office figures were reduced by 80%. Just like how other ASEAN countries are trying to explore different kinds of platforms, wherein we have like different forms of media, videos, movies, where it is all diversified to different kinds of media. So these are the things that they are also looking into for the future of this industry.
Thank you so much. Just one more question to Mr. Kim. How do you see if for COFIC, the role of COFIC to play in bringing the region closer together and using the expertise that COFIC and the Korean film industry to sort of like share the knowledge and to work closer with the region, because Korea, the South Korean industry being so dynamic?
어떻게 보면 한국 영화 산업이 되게 다이나믹하게 발전이 되어 있는 상태인데, 영화진흥위원회가 어떻게 더 구체적으로 아세안 지역들과 한국 영화 산업이 배운 점들을 알려줄 수 있는지에 대해서 설명 부탁드립니다.
가장 중요한 부분은 각국의 영화 산업이기 이전에 영화와 관련된 문화에 대한 이해도가 가장 중요한 부분일 것 같습니다. 한국의 스토리 이야기를 가지고 점점 발전하면서 전 세계인들이 보고 즐기고 아니면 이해할 수 있는 문화를 만들었듯이, 사실은 그 문화적인 토대 안에서에 대한 공감 내지는 이해, 소통, 이런 것들이 사전에 수반되는 여러 가지 작업들이 필요할 것 같습니다. 그래서 영화진흥위원회는 지금껏 아세안에 있는 여러 국가들과 교류하고 있지만, 이 교류가 행정적인 교류가 아니고 가장 기본적이고 근본적인 문화적 교류에 충실하면서 가지고 있는 산업들이 한국의 산업이 비교 우위에 있는 것으로 얘기하는 것이 아닌 교류와 아니면 협력의 모습, 그 안에서 아까 얘기했던 코프로덕션 관련된 부분이라든지 아니면 오히려 한국의 아세안에 있는 이야기들이 한국에 다시 들어와서 한국에서 같이 작업하면서 뭔가를 만들어내듯이, 이런 부분들의 가장 기초적인 것부터 구체적인 것까지 계속 고민을 하고 제안드려야 할 것 같습니다.
Well, of course, other than anything else, he believes that the core essence of this industry is for us to share our own country's culture and traditions. The Korean film industry was able to develop and to share their story about the country by developing and kind of shaping their culture as a story in the form of films. It is very important for people to kind of relate and get interested to each country's traditions and cultures, which in this industry we show it in a film aspect. So Korea is diversified, but the film industry is not above any country's film industry. It's all equal in a sense that Korea is a step forward in terms of realizing and looking into Korea's culture and traditions. Therefore, he believes that there must be a co-production, cooperation, and more discussions in order for all countries all around the world to deepen down and to kind of have an in-depth discussion about each country's cultures and traditions so that the world can know each country's better.
I really believe that there are many people and many filmmakers who would like to co-produce with Korea, or there are stories I know from Southeast Asia that would love to incorporate working with Korea. But at the moment, perhaps there are still a few different challenges and barriers, primarily, I think, to do with language and culture, because Korea is advanced technologically and as a system. But I do hope that within COFIC, there would be more opportunities to look into independent productions from Southeast Asia collaborating with COFIC and also South Korea. And meanwhile, for our audience tuning in, if you have any questions, please do send us through the chat box. We would like to get questions from you for our fellow panelists, and we would address them during the Q&A session towards the end of this panel. Next up, I'd like to go to Thailand with Miss Umasiri. Thailand has amazing sort of like success in the past with Shutter or Ong Bak and Tong Yam Kung, and then in recent times with films like Bad Genius by GDH. So, what is the sort of like current trajectory for Thai films and Thai films in the co-production arena that for your department is looking at how to bring more collaborations together?
Yes, thank you. In terms of co-production, mostly for Thai, we are looking for private sector and private sector. We do have quite a number of remake of the Korean film and also series that Thai company co-produce with Korean firms, both on TV series and films, of course. But for other country, we don't really have much of the opportunity for co-production yet, even though we have some other requests, like from Australia or some from China as well. But the problem is, one thing is the language, and the other things is that Thai producer or we still don't understand how we're going to do it systematically. So we still need support from the government on the guidance, what should we do, or support from other countries like Korea or Singapore that do a lot of co-production. So government is actually looking at the co-production treaty as well. I believe that they will summarize pretty soon. And another area that we are good at the moment is the film and TV series that focusing on LGBTQ, which now we export a lot of these contents to our neighboring countries.
Thank you. Yeah, Korea and Thailand both have the Palm d'Or winners with Apichapong and also with Bong Joon-ho. We are really hoping that there'll be more coming out. And, you know, in the Philippines, there was a entry on the competition at the Venice Film Festival, which resulted in the Best Actor award from the film by Eric Marty, On the Job. Liza, tell us a little bit about FDCP's sort of like current status in terms of all the things that are happening related to the pandemic and how you've been working with your team to overcome them. And I think one of the biggest things that has been really amazing for what you've been doing is the vaccination drive for the workers that you really push so hard for, which I think is brilliant. So tell us a bit more.
Well, you know, the film industry is huge and it's composed of various sectors. You have your international sector that is really thriving right now, and what the FDCP is doing is to just really amplify what our filmmakers are doing consistently despite of the pandemic. There is our industry, our local industry is closed, so they're looking out there and looking at opportunities out there to find audiences beyond the Philippines, and the government is here to make sure that that track that they're taking right now is supported by the FDCP. Locally, we also have to recognize that, while the industry is closed, we have to find ways to slowly reopen and still continue production despite the restrictions that we have in the country. So the best and immediate solution that we have is to get our industry sector, our film workers vaccinated, because it's the only way that we can find a clustered solution to lessening COVID protocol costs associated with producing films, to make sure that our film workers are safe, as they continue to go out there and produce films. Last year, when the pandemic happened, in 2 months we reopened. So while it's good that the local industry have restarted, there are a lot of challenges that our producers have faced because of the costs associated with producing films. So we created the Safe Filming program to make sure that we are continuously sending out an information campaign on the updates, what's happening right now with the changing protocols, and ensure that the systems that is almost non-existent in the Philippines will be in place and will be instituted to the production shoot so that they can still continue. We have the industry didn't know that there's actually a mandatory policy for safety officers inside the production set. So we created the safety and health officers training, where we worked with the Department of Labor and Employment to create a training program to certify safety officers, because they are the key to make sure that these protocols are in place. With the vaccination drive, of course, different local government have their own process, but we sought for partnerships with these local government units so that we can ensure and, I would say, secure slots. Bringing in the Fdcp's process, we created our own system. It's in place and it's something that's working. So LGUs don't have to worry about how to register the film workers. That was all. That was an ongoing thing, and we were able to vaccinate 5,000 film workers because of this, and it has helped a lot of our producers to continue working. They feel safer. And in terms of the international track, what can I say? You know, there are different opinions about the state of our local industry right now, but they did it. Despite this, they continue to thrive and go out there. And with the success of OTJ just being part of the main competition of Venice International Film Festival, with a film that kind of sets the bar right now of what the future of Philippine cinema would be. I mean, it's not just creative, it's not just strong in terms of narrative, but everything that comes with it that we've been looking for in a Filipino film: high production values, technical, high technical, technical. The technicals are so up to par, and of course, the distribution strategy of actually being able to bring in HBO, and change that format in order to adapt to the streaming platforms. That's something that can set the bar right now for Philippine cinema and hopefully Southeast Asian cinema, because this is where we're going, and we can't turn back from doing low budget films because it's so highly competitive right now. And I hope that this can be an inspiration for a lot of filmmakers to see, this is the future of this is the future of global cinema, and we're all, trying to ride that wave right now.
Yeah, I think with on the job, the on the job will really create discussions of the future of film and cinema in the region, with how it has worked together with HBO and Warner Media to place the film internationally on a platform after that. But talking about sort of like also FDCP, maybe you would like to share some of the initiatives that you have to also update us on all the different areas other than the one you spoke of previously. So there is also a presentation that you've prepared for this. So maybe you'd like to share that.
Yeah, thank you, Lorna. Well, as you mentioned, I always take after the big brothers I see here as to how we're going to shape the direction of our local industry vis-a-vis, the bigger picture of being part of regional cinema. So since 2017, the FDCP has been very intentional and deliberate in creating a multilateral cooperation among the Southeast Asian countries. And it is reflected in the programs that we have launched and initiated in the past 4 years. And I feel right now it's just coming into its fruition because we're also gaining a lot of traction in terms of inspiring and activating this collaboration among Southeast Asian filmmakers. So do we have the presentation? Just to give you a visual with with the initiatives of the FDCP. So next, please. So basically, what Joachim said, everything he said, that's exactly how I felt. And this has been something that we have shared together since we met in 2016. Actually, Joachim was one of the first people I met when I first became the chair of the FDCP. And as a young leader, not knowing where to start and how to continue, what has already been started. I took a lot of his advice. There's so much wisdom that he has shared with me in terms of um, understanding best practices and how to adapt it to the country. So this has been an ongoing thing. I mean, he was able to secure that approval first. So he launched it in 20, he launched his program, the co-production grant, in 2019. But with us, it was just this 2021 that we were able to launch the ASEAN Co-Production Fund, which is similar to the Southeast Asian Co-Production Grant of Singapore. We don't have budgets as big as Singapore, but it's something that will supplement and will really complement our film producers. But the goal is for us to hopefully, one day, find that film that will just be produced solely by different Southeast Asian commissions. So this is the ASEAN Co-Production Fund. Next, please. We launched this program and just this year, and we've been able to support 2 films, and we're about to announce the next batch of films that we are also supporting for the next cycle. And just like what Joachim said, this is something that would I feel this is the key to activate that collaboration among Southeast Asian countries. There is a wave of filmmakers right now whose mindset is all about collaboration. They are, while they are auteur in their vision, they are collaborative in their execution. So that's really, really, really beautiful. Next, please. And this is just, the other programs that we have is just to continuously create that conversation, create that dialogue among our filmmakers to find, to set trend to set discussions, to set up discussions that will talk about trends, what is happening in global cinema, what is happening in the global landscape, so we can all catch up. Because just like what Korea said, our friends from Korea, there are systems in place that they have to work with in order for them to work to thrive internationally. And I would say for Philippine cinema, because we're only starting to internationalize just recently, we're still emerging in that aspect. So we have to bring in, we have to educate and prepare, equip, our filmmakers with the tools so that we can work with our international partners effectively. So, can you please just move the slides? I think I mentioned everything already, but just for next, please. Yeah, so we have the Full Circle Lab. This is the lab that is very, very special to my heart because this really kind of like where everything began. So in the same way that Joachim was looking out, was understanding and studying, co-production of creating this grant to support filmmakers. I was at the lab part because Film Development Council of the Philippines, it's really a development council. So we worked with a lot of international film labs and we asked for a lot of advisors to help us shape an international program that would bring together development of stories, shared stories from the region, working with different Southeast Asian filmmakers. So this is really special. We're already on our third year, and we have supported a lot of projects. And with the new Creative Producers Lab, just like what Lorna and Joachim is doing in terms of putting our creative producers in the forefront, the goal is for us to breed more creative producers, not just in the country, but in this whole Southeast Asian region, and to actually find a common platform where they can talk and discuss and work together. So this is what Fdcp is doing in a nutshell. We're like a hub, we're like this safe space for our filmmakers to thrive and talk and work together. So yeah.
Together. I personally have been involved in many different of the programs, and I find it really great. And there's definitely a lot of exciting projects. Coming to Malaysia, recently I also worked together with FINAS to have a series of webinars, workshops to really talk about the international, looking at film festivals, looking at labs, looking at training programs, networking, which are all really crucial for us to be able to co-produce together. And I really thank FINAS for the opportunity to do that. And I think that there is a lot that FINAS is working on now to look into Malaysia on a more regional and also global stage. So Idham, would you like to maybe share with us a little bit of what's happening in Malaysia and your plans together with the rest of FINAS into moving ahead in the coming days?
Okay, thank you, Lorna. Just to give a bit of, I think to give a bit of history. Actually, it started also when I met Joachim and Liza, when I first joined FINAS. Remember, Joachim, where we at that particular moment of time, Joachim told me about his initiative, about that joint co-production into Southeast Asia joint co-production grants, and with that, actually, Lorna. It's just that too bad the pandemic came in last year. If not, Malaysia, Singapore, and Philippines, we have also joint collaboration to enter the marché de film, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Lisa. If only that happened, Lorna, I think Malaysian film industry boosting into the international market, we're already there. Because the initiative started way back in 2019. It's just that when during the pandemic came last year, March, I have to put a full stop a bit. Because at that particular moment of time, we lost about 25,000 people job opportunities, almost USD 1.5 billion loss. And that is where the point that I have to take care of my local people first before we go international. But thank God things are getting better today in Malaysia. That's why you can see all the initiative going to international level is back. I really hope the dreams that we have between Singapore and Philippines to come join collaboration together in the film markets will be something in the future after this pandemic, this post-pandemic. So talking about that, Lorna, also, just as I told you before, Malaysia today, locally, we are working okay. I think we have managed to go through this pandemic. We have managed to stabilize the economy. We managed to stabilize the work opportunities for all the filmmakers in Malaysia. In fact, just to share you a bit of data, Lorna, This year itself, we have almost 300 over companies that jump into our creative industry looking for opportunities to grow their businesses. While there's some other industries that collapse and then closing of businesses, but in creative industry, especially in the film industry, we see the race in terms of companies coming into our industry. So now, the biggest challenges is we need to go international, because I think it's about time that we do go international. That's why I really give the full support when the first initiative by R4 that particular moment of time, Korea with all the Asian regions, and today we have this ROK initiative. This is something that way for Malaysian. No more, nothing else with this kind of opportunity, Lorna. But I think for FINAS, we have to drive to this kind of initiative if we want to foresee that the local film industry in Malaysia to go to the next level.
I totally agree with that, and perhaps this will be a good time for you to share your presentation. Would you like to do that now? To talk
I
about
just have a brief of presentation just to show on the statistic that what we have gone through during this pandemic. Next slide, please. Just to share with my friends here. Okay, as I told you earlier, during March last year, the total revenue loss around USD 1.5 billion and 25,000 job losses. The impact gave to three of our stakeholders. That is in the production business. We lost around give impact to 3,000 production houses with 25,000 film crews, our film distribution business, and also our film exhibition business. That is the cinema business. As you can see there, because of this pandemic, we lost 40 cinemas closed down from 162 cinemas in Malaysia. Next. This is something that I would like to thank the government of Malaysia, because the initiative that they put in to stimulate back in terms of the recovery plan to our creative industry of Malaysia, where they support the business, and then also we look into the welfare agenda, and then the film financing, and then also in terms of the training, upscaling and rescaling. With that, we managed to secure around 20 million US dollar with 15,000 of job creations, and then 1,300 projects been secured under the stimulus package, which we started somewhere, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere June last year. And that's why you can see now most of the players in the industry, the creative industry, especially in the film industry, much more stable with all the jobs, because due to this kind of stimulus package that been given by our government. So these are the things that I just want to share with you guys, because I really thanks to the Malaysian government for this stimulus package, because without their help, I don't think so FINAS can start to do the recovery plan for the creative industry at that particular moment of time. Next, please. So some of the international strategy, I think this is the dream of us, Lorna, to show that when you know that we started with our road to Oscars after last year, under the pretext of we want to formulate as comprehensive action plan to outline long-term vision. This is where we say that we cannot say anything just for the locals industry, but for me, you need to go international. To open up the Malaysian film industry, we need to go national, and we have to do a lot of co-production. That's why you can see the initiative of Road to Oscar, co-production, and joining the International Film Festival. Even though we know that this year we go under the virtual film festival, but we do need to go to international film markets. These are the things, and also the trade missions. Next. Something that we're looking forward also under this ASEAN-ROK collaborations is where we foresee that with this kind of initiative, we can see the development in terms of the talent development program, in terms of the market development program, the content development program, and also to foresee on the policy, where maybe we can also learn what are the policy that might need to be changed in Malaysia, so that we can achieve in terms of the success rate as per what our neighboring country like our Korean friends here or Singapore and Philippines friends here, when they strive any success, I think the policy also we need to really relook back in our policy. So these are all the 4 initiatives or 4 plans that we foresee in terms of this ASEAN-ROK collaboration. That's about it, Lorna, just to share with you guys.
Thank you so much, Ahmad Idham. I think there is definitely also in Malaysia a lot to look forward from the young talents in Malaysia. I also with some of the projects starting to really do more international co-production. We really look forward to more of that. But next question would be for all the panelists is looking at, I think one of the key things we talk about film, we also look into the exhibition and distribution sector. So I think one of the things we don't discuss enough is cinemas have been closed in many places, and cinemas are not really reopening to capacity. And you know, there are support for filmmakers and there are support for sort of like internationalization, but I think the area of cinema is something that I feel may need a bit of addressing, because once the cinema starts closing down or is gone, there'll be no going back to it. So I'm wondering, in terms of policy from everyone here, how is there any sort of like support or ideas on what to do to keep the cinemas alive during this period? Would anybody like to start first? Yeah, Liza?
Well, of course, you know, when it comes to we have to defer to the decision of the interagency task force, and it's composed of different government agencies tasked to identify which sector they can open vis-a-vis the pandemic and the COVID cases. On the end of the FDCP, though, what we're doing is to prepare, you know, the film industry and our producers to make sure that there is a continuous lobbying to reopen cinemas. We get the best practices from the different countries where cinemas have already opened, and we create this action plan to engage and join government agencies to look into how we can reopen the sector. I was talking about how, you know, I was informed that the Singapore is going towards a pandemic to endemic approach on COVID. And while this is something that they're studying thoroughly, this is something that just tells you how active they are in understanding like how they can um, not leave behind certain sectors that are still closed at the moment. And in the Philippines, cinemas are still closed. So we have a program right now called Nood Tayo ng Sine, or meaning let's watch movies. It's an information campaign, it's a social campaign to remind people about the cinematic experience and how important it still is, that despite, you know, having access to films in different platforms now, and that they no longer have to go to the cinemas, that the cinematic experience is still nothing like, you know, it's, you still can't compare it with any other experience. At the same time, we're engaging with different government agencies to create these protocols that we would enforce, and using our annual film festival, Pista ng Pelikulang Pilipino, as a pilot test to to gauge how we can institute these protocols in partnership with private sector, the cinemas, in partnership with our producers, the Filipino films that are on hold right now and are looking for an opportunity to be screened, and of course the government agencies involved that can help in gradually reopening the cinemas, and but, you know, enforcing the protocols in place, so that we have to start, and this we've been doing actively.
Thank you, Lisa. Maybe we go and Mr. Kim, from Kofik's perspective, because the Korean cinemas have always been one of the biggest box office in the world. I think Korea is probably number 4 or 5 in the world in terms of box office previously, but the numbers have, as you said, fell drastically since the pandemic. And at the moment, cinemas in Korea are still open, but what is happening with cinema going in Korea now that in your opinion, Kofik needs to maybe work on a bit more to get audience back into the cinema?
네, 일단 영화 산업에서 중요한 부분 중 하나가 전시와 배급인데 이 부분 중 하나가 극장이라고 생각을 합니다. 한국 영화 산업 같은 경우에는 박스 오피스 매출액이 한 4위 정도, 글로벌 레벨에서 4위 정도를 4위 정도에 있었는데 코로나로 인해서 숫자가 너무 많이 하락을 하고 극장들이 닫기도 하면서 큰 그 타격을 받았다고 이제 들었습니다. 한국 영화진흥위원회에서는 어떤 대책 혹은 이제 정책적인 부분에서도 어떤 방안이 있는지에 대해서 말씀해 주시면 좋을 것 같습니다.
네, 말씀하셨던 내용의 핵심은 아마 두 가지 정도가 될 것 같은데, 이제 문제는 극장이 존재하고 생존하는 문제와 함께 극장의 영화를 어떻게 쓸 것인가, 이 두 가지가 가장 큰 핵심일 것 같습니다. 네. 소리가 안
You're
나요.
muted.
Yes, I'm back. Thank you. I'm sorry. So in the question that you've asked Ms. Lorna, he thinks that there is one problem that he has to really look into, which is not only about how to bring back or how to sustain the cinemas, but also the contents that we're going to provide and distribute to these cinemas.
네, 그래서 영화진흥위원회에서는 일단 극장에 지원할 수 있는 몇 가지의 대책을 마련해서 진행을 했는데요. 그 부분의 대표적인 것이 이제 영화를 많이 볼 수 있도록 할인권을 예산을 책정해서 관객들에게 지원하는 것, 네, 그리고 또 극장들에게 영화 상영을 하면서 그 작품들에 대한 기획전들을 계속 만들면서 그 부분들을 진행할 수 있는 비용들을 진행하는 것, 그리고 방역과 관련된 내용들에서 들어가는 비용들에 대해서 지원하는 것, 이렇게 세 가지 정도로 일단은 크게 진행을 했습니다.
And so, in order for us to have more engagement with the audience, there were three things that COFIC was able to plan out for, especially for this COVID-19 response. So, number one is about the discount for the audiences, so that they would be more interested and have more engagement to the cinemas. Number two is about special exhibition of different kinds of films, so that people would be more aware of what are the films that is being promoted by the cinemas. And last but not the least, the support for quarantine measures or safety protocols. So these three major parts were part of their plans and for budget allocation as well.
네, 그리고 컨텐츠, 결국에 영화 관련된 부분들의 개봉을 끌어내기 위해서는 영진이가 정책적인 개입보다는 산업 내 주요 플레이어들이 일종의 협의를 통해서 문제를 해결하게 하는 방식들을 도모했는데요. 그게 제작사, 투자 배급사, 그리고 극장, 거기에 있는 후차적인 비디오 플랫폼들까지 결합해서 가장 중요한 시기에 개봉되는 영화들에게 있어서의 손실 부분들을 상호 간에 최소화하는 협의들을 끌어내서 8월 달에 이제 그 작품들이 소위 극장에 걸리게 되고 극장에 다시 관객들이 좀 들어올 수 있는 기회를 8월 달에는 마련을 했었습니다.
And aside from those three major points, one additional point would be the content, of course. Kofic, in order for him to kind of persuade the producers to produce more movies so that there will be more audiences who's going to be engaged in cinemas, they did not really focus solely on the policies related to this industry, but together with that would be cooperation and kind of discussion with the social classes. So those are the producers, the distributors, and the cinemas. We really cannot avoid any loss in this industry with this unexpected global pandemic. However, their aim is to minimize their loss, which is why they had a discussion with these producers, distributors, and cinemas to release different kinds of movies that's related to social issues to bring in more audiences to the cinemas. Yeah.
네, 뭐 많은 예산들이나 뭐 많은 비용들을 가지고 영화진흥위원회가 정책들을 수반하는 것도 있지만 결국에 정책의 근간이 되는 산업계와 정책기관들이 어떻게 협업하고 얘기들을 만들어낼 수 있는가, 그리고 앞으로에 대한 준비 이전에 현재를 또 함께 극복하는 모델들에서 이제 산업의 건전성을 찾을 수 있다라고 생각을 했고, 영화진흥위원회가 그러한 역할을 할 수 있고 또 그런 역할을 진행할 수 있는 것에 대해서 나름의 자부심을 느끼고도 있습니다.
Right, and KOFIC really moves and planning out for this with a big amount of budget. However, the very important fact here is discussion and compromising and discussion with the producers, distributors, and cinemas to bring in more audiences and as much as possible. Also, two things. Number one is how are we going to do that? That is the one very important point. And number two is rather than, well, we are still looking into the future on about the post-pandemic. On top of that would be the present, like how are we going to deal with the situation now for the preparation of the future. That's why he is very confident, and KOFIC as a whole is also confident enough to be a bridge between the audience as with the producers, distributors, and different personnels in this industry.
Thank you so much. And I think Korea will also be the next place where the major festivals are going to take place in Busan, first in early October, and then also in late October, there's also Gangneung International Film Festival. How are the measures that KOFIC is working with the festivals in terms of audience and talents and filmmakers coming in? Just for the understanding of everybody who may be interested to know more about how the festival side is operating from Korea.
네, 또 이제 10월 달에 또 다른 영화제가 한국에서 이루어질 텐데, 이런 시기에 어떻게 이런 영화제가 영진이가 어떻게 이 영화제를 준비하고 있는지와 어떻게 그 관객들과 탤런트들 그리고 많은 분들을 이 시기에 매니지할 수 있는지에 대해서 말씀해 주시기 바랍니다.
이 부분은 굉장히 어려운 문제인데요. 영화진흥위원회이기 이전에 부산국제영화제는 부산국제영화제를 중심으로 운영하고 있는 기관입니다. 그래서 영화진흥위원회가 이것들을 서포팅을 하기 위한 여러 가지 예산적인 지원이나 행사 부분에 있어서 일부분의 지원을 하지만 사실은 영화제를 진행하는 곳과 한국의 방역 당국이 협의해서 그 인원이라든지 페스티벌의 규모라든지 이런 것들을 조정하고 있기 때문에 영화진흥위원회는 이 영화제의 성공을 위해서 여러 가지 방식의 지원이나 기원은 할 수 있지만 지금 상태로는 부산 영화제의 어떠한 형식과 뭐 지금 준비되고 있는 온라인, 오프라인과 관련된 행사나 모든 내용들은 사실은 저희가 다 관여하진 않고 있어서 자세하게까지는 제가 설명드리긴 어려울 것 같습니다.
Well, this film festival is very major film festival for Korean government as well. So it's kind of hard for him to answer that question because different kinds of public institutions and agencies of Korea is in discussion for this matter. Although a part of the budget for this film festival is supported by KOFIC, they're not 100% in the participation of this film festival and preparation of this film festival. On and offline, promotions are being done. However, KOFIC is not totally part of the preparation of this film festival. So, yeah.
No, totally. Yes, it was just because they are coming up, and there's a lot of course, Southeast Asian filmmakers and films that are going to be presented in Busan as always. And I'm also personally very interested to see how we can go back to Korea soon, and be back there to be in the celebration of cinemas. I want to come back to the talk of cinema, to our other panelists. If anybody else would like to talk about, the sustainability of cinema, the brick and butter of the buildings, the seats, the screens. How is it going in Singapore or Thailand or Malaysia?
I'll share that our cinemas have been open since we came out of circuit breaker, which was in June, I believe, June or July last year. So the cinemas been operating, but only allowed to operate about 25%, 25 to 30% capacity because of rules like 1 meter distancing between patrons. They have to wear the mask. We still allow them to sell popcorn and consume popcorn while watching film. But certainly they are under a lot of financial pressure. Recently, we have also started experimenting with things like fully vaccinated cinema halls, and that has increased the capacity that we have allowed inside these halls. So I see that with that kind of with a higher level of vaccination, the cinemas will have a better chance of surviving if the government starts to relax some rules, particularly for vaccinated audiences.
Thank you, Joachim. Malaysia also is opening cinemas, and maybe to share a little bit from Malaysia.
Yeah, Lorna, we just recently opened since 9 September. After so long, cinema has not been open in Malaysia. Only recently, 9 September. Now, the challenge is content. We don't have any problem with the content local because we have already the outstanding contents that's supposed to screen last year when the cinema closed. These are the backlog of the contents. Then we have a lot of good contents we can show. It's just that now the challenges that we are facing is the trust. Is it the trust from the audience, whether they trust to go to the cinema or not? That's the thing, because as I think same goes to what Joachim told us just now, the SOPs is something that we try to bet on the SOPs. We create the cinema bubble kind of things, fully vaccinated cinema, fully vaccinated crews of the cinema, even the cleaner of the cinema must be fully vaccinated. Whoever in the cinema must be fully vaccinated. That's the protocols that we impose now. And at the same time, also those who go to the cinema also must be fully vaccinated. So it's too early for me to say whether it's a success. Is it a successful plan or what? But we are pushing it. We give a campaign to push. The first campaign is more like trust the cinema, meaning to say it's safe to watch a movie. These are the campaign. Before we're talking about the content, we must bring back the trust whether it's safe to watch a film in the cinema or not. But we believe with this new protocol, with the one that we imposed on the new rulings, I believe that we can give certain guarantees that watching cinemas is safe.
Thank you, Ahmad Idham. Ms. Uma, is there something you wanted to share with the cinemas in Thailand?
Yeah, I think for Thailand, it's quite similar to other countries, Lily. We just recently reopened the cinema on the 1st of September. Even though the situation of Thailand is not really good, we still have like 13,000 new infected cases every day. And the number of box office last year has actually dropped like 75%. We don't have the number of this year yet, but I believe that's not looking good either. And the Thai films that's supposed to be scheduled in the cinema would have to postpone and then release it in other countries before even release in Thailand. So that's the problem. And even though they reopen the cinema, we still encourage we still have we need to make sure that the crew and the patrons are fully vaccinated. They need to show the proof and wearing masks all the times. Those kind of measures are still put in place. And yeah, like Malaysia and Singapore, people still don't trust enough to, sit in the closed space for 2 hours or 2 to 3 hours at least. But then people behavior starts to change since the pandemic, of course. So they tend to go to the online platform rather than go to the cinema. And in terms of production, that's good for us, of course, but on the other way, it's not good for the exhibitor. But I believe that the exhibitor would looking at, of course, discounts for the audience and also organizing the Asian Film Festival soon with the support from the government to boost the people to come into the cinema, and also organize and pitching competition to draw people to listen to the new projects, and this is the project that's going to win, and then they're going to see this project in the cinema soon. This kind of things that trying to draw people out of home when the pandemic is over.
Thank you so much for sharing. Maybe I could also contribute a little bit. In Europe, one of the things that has happened here is most of the cinemas set up their own online viewing from sort of like the pipeline of films that they were distributing. And over here in the Netherlands, there's actually a scheme where you buy a card where you can go to the art house cinemas and watch unlimited amount of films, and those membership also then the money goes back into the cinemas, the art house cinemas, and allows them to stay alive during the period of time. And this membership also then created their own online platform for people who still pay their monthly fees to be able to watch films online. So some of the things that could be done could also be adopted by cinemas within the region, probably. And maybe looking at more collaboration within the region is like with the time now, not many of the big major local productions or Hollywood wants to release if there's reduced capacity. Maybe what the different agencies here can do is to show films from around the region that hasn't been released yet or could find a potential audience. Because one of the questions from the audience is a key challenge for collaboration is lack of exposure to each other's cinema. And if you could create a Southeast Asian film corridor or ASEAN-ROK film corridor where each country watch each other's films a little bit more, that could help maybe the cinemas and also the agencies to be more engaged for the audience and the industry to get to know each other more. Would somebody maybe like to start this ball rolling somewhere?
On the FDCP's end, of course, we have around 6 cinematheques all over the Philippines. So this is managed and by the FDCP. And during the last 2 years, the FDCP really actually spent the time to renovate our cinemas. So we're very proud because we just launched a reopening of these cinemas in terms of showing everyone, what has been done, the work that has been done. And I've always been proposing and I've always been offering this platform to our Southeast Asian partners because they have a home. This is something that we can we facilitate the booking and the distribution of films in these venues, so it's easier for us to actually program films from various Southeast Asian countries. On top of that, there is an emerging market in the Philippines, of course, just trying to adapt to the change in terms of platforms. We have the FDCP channel. The FDCP channel is a distribution platform created to showcase films. We have both TVOD and SVOD. So actually on September 30, we will launch the 100 films that the FDCP was able to acquire from various local Filipino producers. And hopefully, if our next step is to be able to showcase and acquire and license Southeast Asian content in our TVOD platform. So this is something that the FDCP has been actively doing because there is a clamor for Southeast Asian content, especially those that have already been are doing the rounds of film festivals and are creating a niche, for an identity for Southeast Asian cinema.
Anybody else would like to add on to that? Maybe
Um,
one of the ideas I would really think is to, sorry, Joachim, you wanted to say something?
No, I was just thinking, this is something that the film commissions, right, have in ASEAN have talked about, and even with COFIC, right? How do we promote our films and in a way our culture, right, to the other countries, right, and grow that audience, right, and appreciation for each other's films. And I was just thinking and smiling to myself, right? We have so many priorities to do, right? But if I had an extra bit of money, right, what would I do with it? I would love to actually have a program where we send a few of our filmmakers, right, into the different countries to talk about their work and their film, right? And I think that the online platforms like Netflix and Warner Media, HBO, all these are great because it makes our films accessible. I've had the opportunity to watch more films from Philippines, from Malaysia, from Korea, because of Netflix, right, which is a good thing. But I think that there's nothing that beats, right, having that filmmaker, be an ambassador to come to a country, spend a little bit of time talking to your students, your youth, people who love film, and engage, right? So if I was just thinking, if I had a bit more time and a bit more money, this is what I'll do. I'll put some money into getting Singaporean filmmakers to go into the region, and hopefully other commissions, right, can also do the same. And then we'll have a network of all these traveling filmmakers in the region on an annual basis, right, promoting films in a small way. But you got to start somewhere to build that tidal wave of interest, right, in the region for our filmmakers and our films.
I have a proposal to that, is that perhaps the money may not come from the film agencies or the government, but also from the platforms that are benefiting from the content that is out there. I think that if the agencies can work together with the platforms, and the platforms, all have resources, huge resources, some of them, to be able to enable such initiatives to happen. I would really encourage for the agencies to collaborate with the platforms to maybe be the first wave of bringing filmmakers throughout the region closer to each other with such initiative. Anybody else would like to add on to a traveling ASEAN-ROK film event festival within the region?
Lorna, if I may, talking about about films to be screened in various cinema, meaning to say our films can go into Philippines into our platforms, our cinema. It goes back to also to the Thailand and South Korea and Singapore. Actually, I still remember we've discussed it also during that time when we are at the meeting of R4 last time. Malaysia, we are ready. I'm saying that we are ready because one thing about Malaysia, FINAS holds their license. But we do have a bit of limitation that time when not all the film commissions hold the license of the cinemas. We can get the content, but can they guarantee that content will be in the cinemas? Whereas in Malaysia, we can guarantee that because we can easily talk to one of the cinema is our stakeholders where we hold the license. I think these are the things that Lisa, we talk about this. I think Joachim, we talk about it. I say Malaysia is just ready to do this collaboration at any time when they are ready. Just to share with you the point here, Lorna. Thank you.
Yes, I think we will have further discussion on this. I think it's not impossible to do. I can already see how to collaborate with certain people with funding to work with the cinemas in the different parts, and also in Korea or Thailand also, because I think a lot of cinemas are looking for content to attract different types of audiences, and I think that one of the content would definitely be films from within the ASEAN-ROK region. One question from the audience here. What are the specific genre that travel better across the ASEAN region? Horror is big in Indonesia, rom-coms are big in the Philippines. Are there themes and genres that are popular and profitable across the board? I think this is a question that is really difficult to answer, because every film actually is quite a case of its own, and some films nowadays have different genres melded into one. I don't know if any of the panelists would like to add to the question of genres that might work well within your region or across ASEAN and ROK.
Well, I, in the film festivals and film markets I have participated in, whenever you talk about Asia and of course Southeast Asia, there's always a clamor for action, horror, types of genres, because it's universal. There's a language barrier when it comes to films that are more didactic, like comedies or romantic comedies tend to become very local. So when it comes to action and horror, it's something that really does well. Even in Western countries, and of course, you have a huge market when it comes to Europe and US, and this is kind of where you want to go if you want to make a film that will travel well. So uh, it's actually what with the recent participation of OTJ in the Venice International Film Festival. That was exactly what the film festival directors was saying in terms of the kind of content that they're now seeing from the Philippines, because Philippines, while we have a slate and a lineup of amazing filmmakers, we've kind of thrived in the art house genre, or the art house type or artistic types of films. It does really well in international film festivals, but it's very niche when it comes to commercial markets. So the diverting our content now, diversifying our content to more genre-centric films, horror, action is a welcome. Uh, is very much welcomed by the international community, and this is something that they are actually very excited about, and looking forward to see from Philippine cinema. So we're going to really be intentional on this specific track, so that we can also not just create films that will travel well in festivals, but also will have commercial successes.
Anybody like to add on to that? I think I'd like to add one more genre that people often overlook that actually may do well across the board is melodrama. Melodrama, when done really well, works also across Asia. Something that will make everybody cry in the cinema, and that also usually translates quite well within the region. So that's something I think also to think about, because action can cost a lot of money to make. Horror, you need to be smart and have really good sort of like twists and production value. But melodrama, you just really need to understand how to play with making people sort of like invest their emotions totally into it, and be swept away by the drama. So that's something to add. Another question that I think is interesting. We love to find fellow filmmakers from other countries in ASEAN. How do we choose whose strengths can complement ours? What is the strength of filmmakers in all the different specific country? For example, Thailand is known for post-production, really good as a place to do post-production. How about the other countries? Maybe everyone here would like to just add maybe some of the areas that your country has really sort of like solid areas for co-production. I'll start with Joachim.
I guess the Singaporeans are very organized. I, I, I find it's difficult to sort of characterize that way, right? And in my experience of sort of just having limitedly traveled to a number of the ASEAN countries and to Korea as well, I find that there are filmmaking and storytelling talents everywhere. And it's really hard to say, okay, the Singaporeans are good at this, the Filipinos are good at that. I think filmmaking is universal in the sense that there are good storytellers in every country, and we have to support these guys and sort of realize their films. Now, it may make sense to do post-production in Thailand because there is a concentration of great post-production or editors or color gradients in there. That's a technical specialty, right? But I think that in general, I would say the stories that the Filipinos tell, the stories that the Vietnamese people tell or the Thai people tell are slightly different, right? And I think that's what will make things interesting and refreshing, right? My answer is this: find great talent everywhere, right? There's no need to pigeonhole to say a certain country behaves in a certain way, because I believe and to the point of art house or I think art house, we have started this momentum of collaboration. The next area to really think about is how do we get great commercially driven films made and appreciated in the region as well. And again, I don't have the answer to that, but again, we have to find those filmmakers in our countries.
Does anybody want to add on to that? I think for Malay across Southeast Asia and also Korea, there is no, as Joachim said, there's no underlying sort of like strength, but there are certain sort of like qualities. For example, I would say we all acknowledge that Thailand has great post-production. Philippines, Malaysia has great landscapes and also, costs that are lower. In Korea, you have highly technical sort of like crew that is really solid in terms of very high level technical quality in terms of cinematography or sound or music or editing. And also with the talents from Korea being sort of like more internationally known. And it's just, and I think every country that we have here, be it Korea or in the ASEAN region, most of the countries have now incentives to set up shooting within the country. But how do you find the people that you want to work with in each country? I think that's also a big question for people. How do you identify who can I work with in Malaysia for this film? Which production company should I work with? Which post-production company should I work with in Thailand? In the Philippines, who are the good line producers that we can partner with? In Singapore, there are also post-production facilities and studios, which are the ones that would be suitable for my project. I think that is something in terms of a database that is a little bit missing. And in Korea, how can we find people who want to do international collaborations and can work in English? Because that's something that is really, really tricky when it comes to working with Korea, for example. The language is so how do we get into maybe creating a database that would help access the talents in all the different countries? Does anybody want to add on to this in terms of some ideas or brainstorming on it?
For Thailand, really, we also lacking of the database as well. But one thing that we could help is to be the contact point. As the association, we have like the Director Association and also some other international crew collaboration associations that are in the association as well. So we got contact. Sometimes I'm asking who the right people that they should contact with. So we basically could direct them to the right people. Yeah, just if Thailand, that we could help on that.
On the end of the Philippines, right now we actually have a registry in place. It's called the National Registry. This is a database of the various film sector stakeholders. So we have a database of film workers, and this is actually how we were able to access and get in touch with the 5,000 film workers that we were able to vaccinate, as well as provide them with cash financial aid for during the pandemic. We also have the registry for production companies, and they're actually required to register first before they are able to apply in any of our programs. And this is to make sure that we are really professionalizing the industry. What we can do, and something that I'm just playing with because Lorna, you challenged me again. Okay, because of this very deliberate direction towards creating this regional cooperation. And with the ASEAN Production Fund that we have, and of course our Full Circle Lab, where we support a lot of projects every year, maybe we can also start a registry for our ASEAN partners, and in that way there is that one a centralized directory or database for different services and companies that filmmakers can have access to, should they decide to work with different countries from the region.
And in terms of, especially, I think one of the things most of us would like to be able to access is Korea, because there's a lot of very interesting talents in Korea, and there's COBIS, which is very useful for us to understand all the information. But I think one of the information that we don't get out of COBIS is perhaps like who identifying players or industry participants in Korea that want to do international co-production and would be able to do that. So this is something. How does COFIC feel about this area of being able to promote more collaboration through your database and identifying the key players?
네, 일단 뭐 저희 영화 산업에서 요즘에는 다른 나라들의 영화 제작사분들이 협력을 한다든지 아니면 코프로듀싱을 하는데 아직까지 다다른 나라가 지금 장점들이 있지 않습니까? 예를 들어서 태국 같은 경우에는 포스트 프로덕션이 그분들의 장점이라고 하고, 뭐 한국 같은 경우에는 기술이 발달됐던가 아니면은 탤런트들, 영화 배우분들이 세계적으로 널리 알려져 있는 상태인데, 이런 부분들, 이런 장점들을 활용하기 위해서 코픽은 어떻게 다른 나라 영화 제작사들에게 저희 나라에는 이런 영화 제작자들이 있고 이분들이 여러분들과 같이 일하고 싶어 합니다. 코프로듀싱 하고 싶어 하십니다. 라고 어떻게 다른 나라 영화 제작자분들이 알 수 있는지에 대해서 질문합니다.
굉장히 어려운 얘기인데요. 타 국가에서 결국에 한국의 제작자 내지는 코프로덕션 목표를 위해서 접근을 한다는 것은 일정 정도의 DB나 그 DB에 있는 정보 자체에 대한 신뢰도가 굉장히 높아야 되는데요. 사실 그 부분에 있어서는 영화진흥위원회 이제 코비즈라는 뭐 다들 알고 계시는 사이트에서 배우나 아니면은 영화 제작자 내지는 영화 관계자들에 대한 일정 정도의 연락처들은 전부 다 DB화되어 있습니다.
Well, it's kind of a developing aspect in film industry as well. But if let's say there are filmmakers from other countries who wants to co-produce or collaborate with the filmmakers in Korea, we already have a database in the website called Kobiz. One of the things that they really give importance to is the accuracy of this database. So in the Kobiz site that he has mentioned already has database for contact details of different actors, actresses, and filmmakers. 네네.
다만 배우 매니지먼트와 관련된 부분에 있어서는 배우들의 뭐 개인적인 연락처나 이런 것들보다는 소속사나 이런 부분들의 데이터베이스가 나와 있는데요. 제일 중요한 것은 지금 이제 한국과 아세안의 교류에서 아세안 쪽이 한국에 와서 촬영하는 비율보다 한국의 영화들이 이제 아세안에 가서 촬영하는 비율이 훨씬 더 높은 걸로 알고 있는데 이 부분에 필리핀이나 말레이시아나 아니면 싱가포르나 이런 타일랜드나 이런 것들의 DB가 오히려 지금 저희에게는 조금 더 중요하게 느껴지고 있는 시기입니다.
Well, however, it's not really the personal contact details of these, actors and actresses that's provided in the database, but it's more on their management companies. And currently, if you talk about the figures, the relationship of ASEAN ROK, it's more like ASEAN countries filming in South Korea is less likely to happen than South Korea filming in ASEAN countries. That's why Mr. Kim is mentioning that the database of different countries like Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, and Singapore is more needed for the Korean film industry.
그래서 한국과 아세안의 각 국가들과 관련된 공통된 데이터베이스가 필요하다라고 생각을 하고 그 데이터베이스 안에서 단순한 커뮤니케이션을 통한 연락이나 이런 것뿐만 아니라 각국에 가지고 있는 영화 산업과 관련되어 있는 정책과 그 다음에 산업이 내지는 그냥 세부적으로 얘기 드리면 그 곳에 가서 영화를 찍을 때 발생될 수 있는 여러 가지의 이제 규정이라든지 아니면 정책 내용이라든지 이런 것들이 좀 같이 나와 있는 방식이 되면은 한국의 영화 제작자들에게는 훨씬 더 아세안과 가까이 영화를 제작하기엔 더 좋을 거라고 생각합니다. 아까 잠깐 필리핀에서도 이제 리펀드라든지 다른 부분들 좀 설명해 주셨는데 그런 부분들이 조금 더 많이 오픈되고 같이 얘기될 수 있다라면 그 데이터베이스가 상호간에 훨씬 더 시너지를 일으킬 거라고 생각하고 있습니다.
So he really believes that unified database of ASEAN countries with Korean film industry is very crucial at this time of the moment. And in that database, it's not only about like simple communication about the contact details, but also include different kinds of policies and restrictions and regulations to remember when we visit that country for cooperation and collaboration. So through this, Korean filmmakers will find this very helpful and form a closer relationship with filmmakers from other countries. Especially, Ms. Liza, you have mentioned the future and the projects that's being made in the Philippines. So he believes that that's a very good stepping stone to forming a unified database.
So with talks of, coming together, working closer together and being more unified as a region, we've come to the end of our panel. I'd like to thank everyone here today for sharing with us. I'd like to take the opportunity to really comment on, I think the film industry in South Korea and in the ASEAN region is strong and very solid, and we have a lot more potential moving ahead. And the support by the government agencies and also the collaboration amongst the government agencies will only make it stronger and better. So together, if we work together, we will become definitely world-class and an important player to come. Thank you so much, everybody, for your time, and looking forward to more of the other sessions in the Film Industry Conference. Take good care. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
That was a very rich discussion coming from our panelists. Thank you, Ms. Liza Dino, Mr. Ahmad Nadzri, Ms. Umasiri Taron, Mr. Joachim Nang, and Mr. Kim Jung-suk. We would also like to thank Mr. Kyung Min Kim as our translator, and of course, Ms. Lorna T as our moderator. This session surely explained further how ASEAN and Asian film commissions continue in supporting and guiding the film industry in this challenging time. We would also like to thank our participants for joining us here today. Please let us know your thoughts about our session by answering our IFIC survey form that is linked in our chat box. Thank you, keep safe everyone, and we hope to see you in our next sessions. Again, this is the International Film Industry Conference Online 2021.
Thank you very much to our panelists and moderators for a very engaging discussion. Thank you to our dear audience as well for tuning in. We hope to see you in our next sessions. For more details on IFIC, please check our official social media accounts. Facebook page, www.facebook.com/IFICPHofficial. Twitter, @IFICPHofficial. And Instagram, IFICPHofficial. Check out the full lineup of public sessions and masterclasses for this year's Film Industry Conference. Visit our website at fdcp.ph/IFIC.